Welcome. In this video, Chapter 6, 6 Emergency, and 6 Night of Girls Frontline will be summarized. Throughout the video, there will be spoilers for the story of Girls Frontline. If you don't want to be spoiled, please go and play the game. Continuing from where Chapter 5 left off, it's been 5 days since Star disappeared. Negev calls into the commander, saying that a recon squad has discovered Star in the vicinity of Zone T6, so Squad Negev and the rest of AR team are searching in the area. Squad Negev reaches the Griffin base, their destination, with Negev staying to watch the radar while Galil guards in the back. Tara asks why Hellion is looking for Star if she's a traitor. Negev explains that Star was unlucky enough to get Parapuli, which is how she leaked the secret base without knowing. She ran off out of guilt, and it's their job to recover her for 16 Lab. Tar reports that her comms module is completely down. It doesn't surprise Negev because Tar doesn't turn on her equipment to check it, and there's an SF leader near them. The SF ringleader, Alchemist, withdraws from the base and taunts Negev's squad, saying that they can keep struggling, but it will soon be their end. In the border area of T7, several minutes later, AR team arrived where a member of Squad Negev sent out a distress signal. SOP tests comms, which are functioning as usual, and has M4 call into the commander. M4 tells the commander that their mission is to rendezvous with the member of Squad Negev who sent out the signal. After AR team arrives at their destination, Galil flags them over. Galil explains that the comms with Griffin were jammed and the squad got ambushed, making her run for ages before finding somewhere with a signal. M16 asks M4 what they should do, since they can't fight a ringleader in SF territory on their own. M4 suggests splitting up and having the commander help them. Galil will take M4 and SOP to the base so that they can draw fire away from Negev. Several minutes later, M16 calls into the commander saying that the SF ringleader has Negev's search team surrounded. M4 and SOP are going to rescue them, but they can't hold off SF forces for that long. M16 suggests having Griffin troops take over the local SF command post since it's in charge of directing units. By taking it over, they can confuse the enemies, which should make things easier for M4 and SOP. After the Griffin troops occupy the SF command post, Negev radios to M16 that SF has retreated and they're safe. M16 asks about M4 and SOP, with Negev saying they were just there. Galil cuts in and says the two have run off and their signals are being jammed. Tar chimes in, saying it's their fault since she pointed out a figure hovering in the distance, which caused the two to run off. Said figure was none other than Star. Meanwhile, with M4 and SOP, both are looking around the area to no avail. M4 asks where Star is hiding, with a voice saying that the two keep causing her trouble. SOP gets knocked out, with M4 rushing over to her side. Star has mentioned her ambush technique many times, but the two are still unprepared for it. Star raises her weapon at M4 and says she's putting on a touching scene of reunion. Several minutes later, M16 radios the commander saying that she lost contact with M4 and SOP while they were pursuing AR-15. Negev cuts in and says that they've found where SOP is, but nothing from M4. M16 asks if Alchemist is making a comeback, but Negev isn't sure since she can't command this many units, and their movements are chaotic. M16 suggests consulting the ringleader database that Hellion has, then asks the commander to help them rescue SOP. M16 reaches SOP and wakes her up, with SOP asking where M4 is. SOP was looking for Star with M4 until they got ambushed, but SOP doesn't know by whom. Negev calls and says they just reported everything to Hellion, who believes something's really off. Hellion apparently has advised them to abort the mission of finding Star and retreat for the time being since they're in grave danger. Everyone is evacing from area S08. Elsewhere, Star wakes M4 up, saying she's there to pick her up and bring M4 to the others, her friends, who are waiting for M4. M4 says no one matches the definition of friend in her memory module, which in this case makes Star her first friend. M4 actually wakes up this time and asks Star where they are, which is an abandoned control center. Star is going to ask M4 questions and she expects the truth. M4 believes that Star must have a good reason for doing this, asking what Alchemist has done to her. Star says that M4 can only answer her questions now. The first question is, what was the dream she just had? It was about the past, a memory fragment. Question 2, what was it about? It was the first time that M4 awoke, hearing Star's voice and opening her eyes. Final question, who is M4A1 truly? M4 is confused, with Star asking again, who exactly is M4A1? Negev radios into the commander, saying that SF forces are congregating in a direction, with HQ issuing a directive that tells all Griffin troops to withdraw until further notice. However, Squad Negev got intercepted by SF while retreating. Negev, though she likes bloodbaths, asks the commander for a hand on helping them retreat. Combat finishes, and Negev is safe for the time being. Galil asks if anyone has seen M16, who should have collected SOP and returned a while ago. Tar guesses that she found info on M4 or Star and doesn't want more to be involved. Negev tells Tar to search for their signals, with Tar not reading any of their signals. Tar believes that M16 moved out when she realized comms were jammed, unless the jam is what she's after. Meanwhile, M4 is having the dream of meeting Star again, recognizing her as Star due to her firearm. The first order Star was given was to be friends with M4, but she's not smiling. Star suggests giving the order to smile since it's M4's prerogative. Everything was prepared for her sake. M4 recognizes this as her first memory, which a shadowy figure confirms. M4 questions who the figure is and what they're doing. The figure is looking for answers to the question of who M4 really is. M4 states that she's a T-Doll Griffin and a member of AR team. The figure confirms that the memory in her neural cloud is the same as Star's, but that isn't the answer she's looking for. M4 doesn't know the reason why she was made, telling the figure to leave her alone. Star steps in and says that M4 really doesn't know the answer, since the neural clouds of AR team members are encrypted and inaccessible to AR team members themselves. Not even Parapuli can allow them to be read. The figure claims that the deal they had with Star had been broken, even though they were told it wouldn't work. The figure tells Alchemist to take M4, and the rest is dispensable. Alchemist reveals that she's excited to kill Star, and that Star is the source of the jamming. Elsewhere, M16 calls into the commander and Negev, with Negev almost retreating from S08 due to the strong SF forces. M16 reports that Alchemist troops are mobilizing and heading towards the commander and Negev. Negev asks about M16 and SOP, with M16 saying that they're having their own arrangement before hanging up. Alchemist then calls in, taunting Negev and the Griffin troops, saying that Negev couldn't hurt her with her antique rounds as she shreds her friends. Negev asks the commander to help her take down Alchemist. 3 hours after the retreat commenced, M16 calls Negev, saying their carrier is there. SF is right behind them and that the building is about to blow. M4 wakes up to M16 saying their carrier is there. M4 starts frantically searching around for Star, with M16 saying that she's made her choice. A bad feeling washes over M4 before she runs off to the building that M16 was warning about. She runs off the aircraft and through the chaos to see the building in the middle of a deafening explosion. Griffin T-Dolls scrambling in a panic, while SF pursuants are buried in rubble. M4 knows what this means. A cacophonous funeral and silent farewell from ST-AR-15. In 6 Emergency, it starts 1 hour into the operation, with Squad Negev being surrounded by SF troops. Galil asks why there's so many SF units in S08, with Tar saying that commanding this many units is unlikely for a regular ringleader, and Alchemist may be leading them into a trap. Galil calls to Negev to have them fall back, but she's vanished somewhere. Tar guesses that she must have gone after the Parapuli jam, and that she's out for blood. Tar then asks the commander for help in fending off SF interceptors while they retreat. After they successfully retreat, M16 calls in and says that Negev isn't alone, as SOP is with her. In her own words, 2 suicidal nuts sticking together should have a better chance of surviving. Things aren't going well for Griffin, and M16 suggests doing what they can for now, since there's jamming and SF forces everywhere, leaving the rest to the battle maniacs. Elsewhere, on the transport route in S08, Star and Alchemist are talking through comms. Alchemist asks Star where M4 is, as if she doesn't, her friends won't make it out either. Alchemist has already provoked and misled some of the Griffin squads as they believe she was in charge of the attack, and all she has to do now is to trap Star at the crucial pass she's in, which will leave them isolated due to the comms jamming. But Alchemist says she won't do that if Star tells her where M4 is. Star resists, but is called an idiot for standing by her beliefs by Alchemist. Star states that only one of them will walk out of this alive. Hellion calls into M16 asking what's happened since she ordered them to retreat. M16 explains that there are still many Griffin units stuck in front of the pass, and the signal is jammed there. With there being so many SF units getting ready to ambush, forcing their way through either side will cause mass casualties. Hellion asks why Star hasn't left since Parapuli is still in effect, with M16 believing that she's probably pinned down by Alchemist in order to provoke Negev. M16 formulates a plan to get Star out of her tight spot by sending Sop to direct everyone to the evac route. Back on the transport route, Alchemist tells Star that it's over and she should stop struggling. Star states that Alchemist isn't doing any better herself since her forces have been wiped out by the commander, allowing for Griffin forces to retreat. If Star had handed M4 over, she wouldn't have to execute her, but Star never said she had M4 with her. Alchemist laughs at her treachery before going in for the kill, but is suddenly stopped by Sop killing her. Sop hugs Star, being happy to see her again, with Sop trying to get her out with the rest of the squads. But Star just can't go back, and instead hands Sop a drive of all the info she collected, including M4's hideout. Sop continues to try and convince Star to come back, but she still won't go. If Star doesn't stop SF's leader, SF will consume everyone. She needs to meet this mastermind, which is the only way of saving everyone. Star tells Sop to protect M4 before leaving. Sop calls into M16, saying that Star has something to do, and while she doesn't know what it means, it still scares her. M16 says that the SF attacks have weakened since Alchemist was killed, making the SF troops scramble around like bugs. All that's left is M4. Sop says that Star gave M4's location and Sop goes to retrieve her. M16 asks the commander to give cover to Sop while M4 is rescued, as SF units are still strong in the area. After combat, Sop heads to M4's hideout and overhears a conversation between M4 and Star. The two talk about what friends should be and taking orders. Meanwhile, outside an abandoned building, Star and M16 finally meet, with M16 wanting to meet Star one last time, and will drag her back if that's what it takes. Star asks M16 to not get in her way, as it's her own business. M16 wants to know what Star knows, with Star saying that she's been digging around in the SF database to find the truth of Plan Parapuli. While investigating an SF factory, she accidentally set off a signal disruptor, fell asleep, had a dream, and when she woke up, comms were down. Star believes that the disruptor triggered her Parapuli, with it installing a jamming module into the Parapuli, which is why she's hiding in S08, to not drag Griffin into her own mess. M16 says it's not her fault, but Star doesn't listen. M16 believes that SF is in disarray because of Alchemist dying, but it's actually because of the Mastermind's staggering rage. M16 asks Star to take her with her, but instead, Star wants M16 to rescue friendly T-Dolls. M16 says that Star will only get caught without achieving anything, but Star has a plan for that. High explosives from Negev that Star is rigged under the abandoned building. M16 still tries to convince Star to come back with her, but Star believes that T-Dolls should live and die as soldiers. M16 slaps Star before asking how she'll break the news to Sop and M4. Star says to tell them that she's off to fulfill her final wish. Hellion calls into the commander, saying that the SF attack is far from over, and she can't determine how many T-Dolls are trapped in the chaos of the battlefield. Negev reports that some scouts are in a jam, as well as what's left of AR team, as well as the center of the jam being in the middle of an SF camp. Hellion has the commander take the sentry post in the area so that the course for the aircraft can be safeguarded. 3 hours since the start of the retreat, Star is talking to the mastermind of SF, who only wants to see M4. Star says that M4 has already been retrieved by Griffin, and the mastermind can barely protect herself with what little troops she has left. The mastermind claps twice and SF units swarm into the abandoned building, and demands M4 be handed over. Though the mastermind has let many chances slip by, Star has come to stop them. Star correctly identifies the other person as the mastermind behind SF due to her commanding abilities. The mastermind claps again, with SF recon aircraft firing at Star, as well as the mastermind saying that she has her own name. Star tries to shrug off the shots, saying that M16's slap hurt more. The mastermind doesn't like being deceived, but Star says that her database should use some updating since 16 Labs tech is far superior to Parapuli. The mastermind is surprised by a T-Doll taking revenge, though she believes what she's doing is right. Star reveals her detonator and asks the mastermind politely to die, but that means nothing to the mastermind. Star sets off the explosives. The memory of M4 first meeting Star plays again. The first time Star set her eyes on the world, she was buzzing with thrill and curiosity. She's an elite developed by 16 Lab itself. Her biggest wish was to carry out noble orders and befriend strong T-Dolls. Back then, she believed if she worked hard enough, she would become a star. But soon enough, she was shackled to M4 and AR Team. She hates all of AR Team, but she's powerless to go against her order. But as long as she's needed, she'll be okay. She's sorry that, as she's leaving, she realized her wish was fulfilled long ago. Star is glad that she got to meet everyone and having done everything along the way. Star has finally paid off what she owed M4A1. That's her final wish. How many times has M4 dragged her down? Shouldn't Star hate M4? But there's no time to keep petty scores. Whatever the case, let this memory give M4 strength and make her stronger. M16 drags M4 back to the carrier. The propellers of the aircraft were grating for M4 compared to the chaos of the battlefield. Something at the bottom of M4's heart was shredded. A wish made by a dear friend, and a mask worn by a soul. Meanwhile, Agent calls into the mastermind, saying that she just reviewed her battle records. Star caused an explosion which made most of her units immobile, with Griffin units having already retreated. Agent recommends stopping the operation today. The mastermind apologizes for failing, with Agent taking the blame due to her own incompetence, believing that she should have sent more ringleaders. The mastermind still doesn't understand what Star said, wishing she could have asked more. The dummy of the mastermind was destroyed in the explosion. Agent says that in substitution of AR-15, another Griffin T-Doll was implanted with Parapuli, and that transfer was a success. This time, the mastermind will need to be more patient, until she gets to meet M4A1. In 6th Night, at an SF interrogation room in S08, Alchemist asks F2000 whether she likes her bombs to be timed or triggered. F2K says it depends on the mission, as humans have invented so many weapons to deal with different situations in the first place. Alchemist says that F2K is missing out by not having a personal preference. As a soldier, she should at least like something about war, but F2K isn't too bothered by things on the battlefield, before switching the topic to shoes. Alchemist asks if all Griffin T-Dolls talk about shoes and handbags, with F2K saying that many T-Dolls are interested in weapons, then about how disappointing it is for Alchemist to capture someone like her. Alchemist, however, has at least learned that non-elite T-Dolls are interesting, and she can compare her to other prey. F2K isn't the only one Alchemist caught, however, as she holds up T91's rifle. F2K asks what happened to T91, with Alchemist saying that she's the only one who ever slipped away, while Alchemist killed the rest. F2K is relieved that someone got away, since that means her job is done. Alchemist pulls out her automatic pistol, saying how Griffin T-Dolls are dull, as F2K prepares to meet her end. Alchemist instead shoots one of F2K's dummies, with F2K being confused by this. Alchemist hushes her, telling her to be quiet and not to let her find F2K until her pistol either runs out of bullets or F2K runs out of luck. Everyone tries to fit into each other's lives while they're alive, only your death is entirely your own. 3 hours later, in the staff lounge of the Griffin base, 5-7 finishes briefing Fowl about their mission, before asking if Fowl was listening or not, mentioning how Fowl's neural cloud is passé, like her taste, and perhaps there should be a leadership change. 5-7 reminds Fowl that if she messes up this mission, she'll be replaced by 5-7, and not have enough money to buy the bag she was looking at. Fowl will simply not mess up then. All they have to do is find a couple missing T-dolls. 5-7 mentions that their enemy this time is Alchemist, which is why the bounty is so big, and why Fowl wants to get it over with and take the money. 10 minutes later, Fowl calls in to the commander, promising them coffee after the job, and says their objective is to rendezvous with FN-49 and FNC, scouts from her team, with the commander clearing a way for Fowl and 5-7 to meet up with them. After Fowl and 5-7 reach their other team members, Fowl criticizes FN-49 and FNC for being late, with the reason why they're late being them having to make so many detours around enemies. 5-7 tells Fowl not to be so hard on them, then asks for the scouting report. 49 tells FNC to stop eating and start talking, with FNC finishing her mouthful of chocolate, confirming that the ringleader is Alchemist, and she's the one behind the missing T-dolls. 5-7 asks Fowl to give some words of encouragement to 49 and FNC, with Fowl saying that their imprints are similar to Fowl and 5-7's, making coordination easier and efficient. If they perform well, they'll be rewarded handsomely. Fowl plans to bait Alchemist out using 49 and FNC. 15 minutes later, Fowl fills the commander in on their plan, asking the commander to keep them safe on their way there. FNC is concerned that the commander won't be protecting them when they arrive, with Fowl saying that the commander can't hang around if they're baiting Alchemist out, and that their clouds have been backed up anyways. FNC says to not look down on them since they're going to survive, with Fowl saying to go easy on the rations since there's a limited budget. 2 hours after escorting, 49 asks how FNC is doing on her end, with both being cold. 49 offers some hot chocolate to FNC, with FNC refusing, as neither can move whatsoever. The two bicker back and forth until 49 notices someone near her. It's T91, asking if they're with Griffin. T91 asks if 49 is on a rescue mission, with 49 explaining that she's there to lure out the ringleader, which T91 laughs at. T91 says that she doesn't mind being the bait if necessary, as Alchemist had her eyes on her anyways. In return, she wants Team FF to provide some protection. Meanwhile, in Fowl's control room, 5-7 says there hasn't been any unusual enemy movements in 2 hours, with Fowl telling her to keep waiting. Fowl plans on recruiting them for real if they succeed in their mission, which is why she's so harsh on them. Fowl then receives a transmission from 49, with 49 explaining to 5-7 what's happened. 5-7 criticizes Fowl for her presumptuous plans, which Fowl likes to call bold attempts. Fowl turns down T91's proposal, and instead plans on having 5-7 as bait since Alchemist only preys on elite T-dolls. 15 minutes later, 5-7 explains to the commander that, as Fowl mentioned, 5-7 will be bait for the operation, which she more or less expected. She then tries to convince the commander that she would be better than Fowl as a leader, who is less reliable, colder, materialistic, and has her subordinates suffer needlessly. 5-7 says she also likes the commander before setting off and asking the commander to keep her safe, as she'll reward them handsomely if they do. 3 hours after mobilization, 5-7 is cussing out Fowl for leaving her out in the elements, struggling through it for the sake of making a good impression on the commander. The commander is still next to 5-7 as 5-7 asks them to not wander off, saying how she'll now ask Fowl for more directions. Fowl asks if 5-7 is already at her limit, since she believes Alchemist isn't coming. The two bicker back and forth between who's better, who would be the best team lead, before Fowl says she will be the final bait, since it's the best way to rescue the captured T-Dolls. Fowl hands all authorizations of team leader of Team FF to 5-7, since she'll be the one who can best keep the team operating. 5-7, however, isn't ready for this, with Fowl saying that no one ever is. The door behind Fowl opens, with Alchemist coming through, saying that Griffin's door locks are weak. Alchemist is disappointed that Fowl didn't set up a trap, since she expected one. Fowl asks what Alchemist is going to do and where her weapon is. Alchemist walks over to the table in the room and puts her weapon on the table. Alchemist says she doesn't like guns, as she sits down on a chair, since they're too quick. She invites Fowl to sit down as well, since he wants to chat and finds Fowl interesting. Alchemist knows what Fowl is planning but doesn't care, and asks Fowl if she likes shoes. 20 minutes later, the remaining members of Team FF assemble at the temp outpost. 49 and 5-7 are waiting for FNC and T91 to appear. While they wait, they discuss whether or not their targets are safe, with 5-7 saying they need to focus at the task at hand. FNC then appears and says that with the help of T91, they are able to confirm the locations of the targets. T91 calls in and says that they're on their own since she doesn't have her weapon anymore. 5-7 thanks T91 and Team FF moves out. 5 minutes later, FNC calls out to the commander to wake them up as they're about to set off. While they were sleeping, Team FF compiled where the missing T-Dolls are and being held captive, with their objective now being to rescue them as quickly as possible. As a sign of gratitude, FNC also invites the commander to their next chocolate party. 49 says the party is only watching FNC eat chocolate, then asks the commander to guide them. 10 minutes after the operation concludes, Alchemist overhears Team FF and tells Fowl to pick them up if she wants to. Fowl has no need since they wouldn't contact her if they had failed. Alchemist says that's the only interesting thing Fowl has said the entire night, with Fowl asking if that's the case, why is she still alive? Alchemist says it's because Fowl is banal, and she's the T-Doll who talked with Alchemist the longest. But, Fowl asks, if their mission succeeded, that means Alchemist hasn't harmed her prey. Alchemist says that people should make the most out of what they enjoy, which she does through capturing and torturing T-Dolls. Fowl catches on that Alchemist only captures T-Dolls to figure out how their neural clouds work, with Alchemist calling Fowl the single most terrifying Philistine she's ever seen. Fowl explains that she doesn't take risks without guarantee. Besides, becoming a captive was F2K's mistake, with her only redeeming herself by helping T91 escape. Now that Team FF is making their way to Fowl, Fowl asks if Alchemist should be returning to where she should be. Alchemist says that Fowl has no value as a hostage, and she's in no hurry to get rid of her, instead picks up her own pistol and points it at her head. Alchemist wants to find out how far she can go to carry out orders. She wants to break free, that's all. Fowl pities Alchemist, but asks if that's her genuine thoughts or a test for Fowl. Alchemist grins and says that Fowl has lost, and that she'll see her in hell, before pulling the trigger. The next day, in the staff lounge of S08, Fowl won't tell what happened between her and Alchemist. All Fowl says is that she was killed by what she was trying to get. Fowl then thanks 5-7 for trying to get her, or else she would have been killed by SF troops. Then asks 5-7 if she wants to remain team lead. 5-7 says that she'll take the position from her someday, but not today, since she didn't get it fair and square. 5-7 mentions that FNC and FN49 have sent in their applications and can officially join when HQ approves. F2000 also needs to go to HQ for her reward, and 5-7 suggests all of Team FF celebrate their victory, with T91 being invited as well. Life is hard, but that's what makes it interesting. That's what Alchemist overlooked. Someone who fools herself into believing that she's trapped in a flask can never truly break free. Thank you for watching. Please follow my Twitter for updates. I also stream and are currently streaming Metal Gear Solid 3, and please check out my other Arknights and Azure Lane videos as well.